Hello, the Ubuntu Touch 2404 1.3, the operating system for mobile phones and more, has been released. Let's try to install it in a QEMU virtual machine. This is my first look at this operating system. I don't have any hardware, so we'll run it in a virtual machine. It has a store of applications, an app store. There's the desktop environment low-miri. And it's being made available to devices that have the previous versions of the operating system. So if you have Ubuntu Touch 2404 1.2, you will receive Ubuntu Touch 2404 1.3. If you're not on 2404 but on 20.04, you will need to first go to the latest version of 2404, and then you will be able to go to 2404. This is the Wikipedia page of Ubuntu Touch. It's an effort started by Canonical in the year 2011, when Ubuntu operating system was to support both desktop computers, laptop computers, but also smartphones, tablets, smart TVs, etc. The effort from the Canonical company ended in 2017. But then the effort of continuing supporting existing users of Ubuntu Touch and creating new versions of Ubuntu Touch was continued by UBports Project, UBports Foundation. Let's get to the installer page. Either from the Wikipedia page you can see the official website, or from this announcement there's the chapter new Ubuntu Touch users. Where we want to go is this URL, devices.ubuntu-touch.io. From the homepage, ubuntu-touch.io, get Ubuntu. You should land at the same page. On the left-hand side, you have the list of mobile phones and, for instance, tablets that are better supported at present. And then if we want to use a virtual machine, there's this chapter, find the Linux device that suits you, virtual installation, UBports platform development kit. This is a GitHub repository, github.com/ubports/ubports-pdk, platform development kit. We're looking at the top level readme file. In here it says that we can either install using snap, or if we grab a git clone. We're on Ubuntu 26.04, so hopefully the snap version should work. Let's see if it does. So install ubports-pdk. Next up, we connect KVM and network control. And then we need to make sure that my user is part of the local Linux user group named KVM. The user is not part of the Linux user group KVM. Let's add it and check. And it's not enough. We probably need to, restart the computer. I have restarted the computer, and now I can see that current Linux user is member of the Linux user group KVM. Next up, we'll need to run a set of 3 commands. This is the executable name if we're not using snap, but we're using snap. In the case of snap, this is the command line. I'm not sure if it requires to be super user or not. Let's try without. So UB ports -pdk.pdk and then setup sets environment mounting capabilities for your development needs. So in the home directory, subdirectory snap, UB ports -pdk, which is probably the directory of this snap. There's common and data. KVM group all set up good. It complained about libgio libproxy, which is for networking support. libpx backend. But these are from the should be provided by my operating system. So should these two .so files, this one and this one, come from /usr, which is Ubuntu 26.04, or should these come from the snap world? Path does not exist. Create it. Make fs.fat. Okay, next up we'll need to fetch a virtual machine image, probably. And it says that's going to download the freshest development image. That's a good idea. But then based on focal, that means Ubuntu 20.04. And then there's a Ubuntu 24.04 image also available. So either this text is old, or indeed the pull command will download a image that's not for the latest version of Ubuntu ports release, the operating system. I'm not sure exactly what to do. Either we just try using pull and hopefully we'll get 2404, or if we're going to get 2004, we can delete it, or we can just hopefully use a command line like this and select exactly the version that we want. So the recent release was 1.3. Let's see if this command line actually works. UB ports -pdk.pdk space pull space -- release equals 24.04 - 1.3. Okay, so it complains that it doesn't recognize this 3 at the end, and we should use the same value that's given here in the readme, which is a x at the end. So 1.x. ci.ubports.com/job. So this is probably the CI/CD build server of the UBports project and community and UBports Foundation. So the command line pdk pull finished successfully. It fetched a .row.xz file, extracted it, and now we can run the development virtual machine instance. So same command line, ubports -pdk.pdk, and then command line arguments run. By default, probably uses QEMU GTK graphical user interface window, or you could select SDL with -- GUI equals SDL. Let's not provide any parameter. Hopefully that will use GTK, and maybe GTK is better than SDL. I just can't overcome this error. QEMU could not load PC BIOS -256k.bin. Hopefully this QEMU lives inside the snap world, and this file also lives in there. I have entered the snap run space -- shell and then the name of the snap, so ubports -pdk.pdk. Says that there is a /usr directory in there. Inside the share cbios, there's the file that we want, bios-256.k.bin. And this file does not exist in USR share QEMU. This GitHub repository is actually just a number of really small bash scripts. I can see how the operating systems, the host operating systems are treated: Linux ARM64, Linux AMD64, and then macOS ARM64, macOS AMD64. I can see how the QEMU command line is being generated. So in my case, we're using snap. So we fetch the executable for QEMU from the path environment variable. And then we prepare a long command line. But I just have no clue how to pass additional command lines to QEMU such that, for instance, we specify the full path to the cbios file to use. So this -L. So I'm going to stop using the snap version. I'm going to uninstall it clean. And then I'm going to try to go the other way around, which is not use snap, but install the ubports platform development kit for Ubuntu Touch, but doing a git clone of the repository. And the repository just contains portable bash scripts, so we should be good. Okay, so let's clean up. How do we do that? Sudo snap list. Okay, ubports pdk. Not sure how to remove. Like this. ubports pdk. Unfortunately, the virtual machine image that's pretty large will probably get lost, so I'll need to re-download it. Okay, so the entire data directory has disappeared. Okay, so next up we need to clone the Git repository with HTTPS, of course. So git clone, change into it. Next up, it says that we should again make sure that the current user is member of the KVM user group. It is. Then we'll need to call the setup. Let's see what we have in here. So we have an executable. So we actually need to call it like /, and then setup. ~/.config/ubuntu touch pdk/data. This is not a configuration file. This is a virtual machine image. Should probably be downloaded in another directory. Maybe in ~/.local/share or state. SSH key, authorized key list. Okay, next up we're going to pool, but with the same note as previously, we want to run pool with this command line parameter. Minus release equals 24.04 minus 1.x. It seems that the master branch of this Git repository ubiports.pdk is newer than the version that's available in the Snap Store. So in here, the only options are Focal, which is Ubuntu 20.04, and the other option is 2404 minus 2.x. So the same previous command line, but with 1.x replaced with 2.x. Probably you can specify noble instead of this long string as the value for the command line parameter minus release equals. We finished this command line, the pool, and now we need to run so actually start the virtual machine. And this time at least QEMU shows something. Ubuntu Phablet. Ubuntu 2404.4. Okay, language English United States. Next. Control Alt G works to ungrab. Not sure what happens. Maybe I was too adventurous to use ubiports Ubuntu Touch 2404. Maybe I should have gone with the default, which is 20.04. So this is probably an image of the virtual machine disk, not actually a live CD install medium. And what I'm seeing right now is hopefully the first run wizard, say a OEM original equipment manufacturer's type of setup. But when I pressed on the next button, the entire graphical user interface has hard locked. And then Ctrl Alt G works to ungrab. I cannot connect via the VT equivalent here in the terminal. It says that the VM instance has a user root with a password root, which doesn't really seem to work. Root without password doesn't work. Root with password root doesn't work. So maybe this readme is not that great for anything else than the default virtual machine type, which is Focal. Let's try to restart this thing. Yeah. Maybe the product is an effort of a limited number of people, and manual testing is not that great. Double click on English, click on ST, click on English, next. Yes, we got something this time. Okay, keyboard language, United States, keyboard layout, skip. City, New York, next. Preferred name, create a password. Password too short. So a huge password is still too short. It's not 8 characters long. One, two, three, four, five, six, seven, 8. Passwords match. Next. Get started. Okay, how do we resize this thing? Best fit. Okay, so it needs to release the mouse grab using Ctrl-G, which means that a USB tablet is not set up inside the virtual machine, which is a strange choice to make. Why would you not have that? Okay, how do we resize this thing? Did it actually work? So resize just magically works. Wow. The first time that I see inside QEMU resize seeming to actually work. Cool. I'm not sure what was that, so I pressed on what looks like the start menu button, and it asked for user and password. So probably that was the lock screen. We're probably using a tablet, phablet style user interface. Okay. Let's see a bit what's written in here. Let's see if we can make this use half of the screen. It rotated the screen. Wow, that was interesting. Says when logged into the VM instance, user root password root, you're able to clone UBports repositories using UBports clone. I'm not sure what that means. Let's see if we have a terminal in here. Lock screen again. Looks like a bug to me. sudo root. So sudo works, you need to enter the password of your current user. Let's see if copy paste of text works. What was that? So I moved the mouse towards the right edge of the screen and I got some edge gesture, which shows probably the list of running applications. Let's see if copy paste works. Plain text. How do we paste? I don't know. Ctrl Shift V. UB ports minus clone. Let's see, where am I? Caps lock works. /home/phablet. I'm not sure what that thing is. Ctrl D works. So the user is actually named Phablet, the Linux user, but then the OEM experience first run wizard asked me to set up a user and password, or just a user human readable name, not the Linux user name, maybe. How do we prove that? Maximize works as expected. Double click on the title bar of the window. Accounts. What's that? How do we search? Yeah. So that was it. It's an operating system virtual disk image, the .raw archived file that we download, and then it gets extracted, and QEMU is started with a very long command line with this image as the virtual disk image. In there are two users. There's root, and then there's the user phablet. The user root, I'm not sure if has a password, but then the user phablet is a sudoer. And then in graphical user interface mode, with that first run wizard, you're being asked a password for the user phablet, the Linux user phablet, and a display name for the user phablet, which I provided as n. So n is the display name, phablet the Linux username, and 8 letters password. And then from here you can become the user root as usual by entering the password of the user phablet. There's an issue in here in the graphical user interface when you click on the all apps launcher, the equivalent of the Windows start menu button. It keeps asking for the password of the current user, which it should definitely not. The screen was not locked, so why would you? Or not? Wow. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what's happening here. So phone style applications, but they're displayed windowed because maybe the resolution is large enough that the operating system decides this is not necessarily a mobile phone form factor resolution, but it could be a phablet. So maybe then it switches to showing a window decoration, minimize, maximize, close button to the windows. Let's prove that theory by resizing the QEMU window, make it be a mobile phone. Wow. No, so it shows the window decoration also when in mobile phone mini resolution. Let's go back to half the screen. Okay, so it says that we should open the terminal. I'm trying to do what's written in the readme file in the GitHub repository. I'm not sure where are the previous applications. Did this terminal application just restart? Or do we make the fonts smaller? Whoa. Can't see anything. So it looks extremely similar to a desktop Linux operating system. At least the Linux users, the home directory. Let's create in here a work directory. Not git clone, but ubports clone. Auto completion works as expected. Repo worthy. Okay, so it says that there's a directory /pdk/sources, and you're not actually git cloning in the directory that I have just created. And I need to be the user root because this directory is exposed both inside the virtual machine and outside in the host operating system. So that's why I need to be the super user, but not using the password root, but by using sudo. Okay, and then the same command line, ubports -clone repo worthy. Okay, where did this action happen? In /pdk/sources. Oh, I can't see anything. What do we have in here? So this is the mount table. There's /ec /proc/dev, sounds familiar, /run, slash is ext4. And then what else is there interesting? So /vda3 is the bulk of storage slash. And then /vda2 is /boot, and /vda1 /dev/vda1 is the FE variables /boot/FE. And then /dev/vdb is /pdk/settings. Whoa, what was that? Of type vfat. Okay, so then where can we see /pdk/sources? Okay, let's exit and try to find that directory on the host computer. I'm not sure I perfectly understand in here the dance between the virtual machine and the host operating system. There's /.config/ubuntu touch pdk/data. In here there's an empty directory sources. I saw in the QEMU command line options for virtiofsd, virtiofs. And then also the readme file keeps saying that inside the VM. So why would it say inside the VM? It's of course inside the VM. Okay, so what did we do? We went ubports clone, next up ubports build. It tries to create deb packages, so Ubuntu is based on Debian. Unable to install all build deb packages. Unable to install repower d-build-debs. No user _apt on the system. I'm not sure what I'm seeing here. Scrolling with the mouse is inversed. How do we fix that? The mouse went whack. Reverse doesn't find anything. Cursor speed, wheel scrolling speed, primary button. Okay, and the rest. Again, also maybe this part of the tutorial is not made up, configured correctly for the latest version of the operating system. Maybe this package power D doesn't even exist any longer. So let's see if this is a full Debian operating system. Let's see if we can install packages. MC, there's no MC midnight commander in here. Let's see if there are any deb package repositories. Update should download the metadata, and there is. As you would expect, so there's Noble with universe, multiverse, main, restricted, etc., etc. And now you should have access to all of the possible packages. And voila, we're inside Midnight Commander. We probably booted in UEFI mode. /pdk sources repowered D /src directory. Let's exit the grub. And still nothing in the host operating system. Okay, it says that there should be a deb file built inside /pdk/sources /repowered D. So in this directory. And there's none. Maybe we should try again. Yeah, so the first run wizard should probably do a sudo apt update, because many things will not work until you do an apt update. You cannot actually use ubports -build. You cannot install software using apt space install, the command line. So hopefully this time the build has succeeded. How do we see that? /pdk /sources, the name of the package, and then a deb package in here. Okay, the color scheme inside Midnight Commander is not that great. I can't see that easily, this reddish text. The name of the first file in here. Okay, so everything in the tutorial has worked correctly. Let's just go through the applications a bit and through the App Store. So we saw the system settings, says Lomiri system settings. Lomiri being the desktop environment. There's an App Store called Open Store. Which is this thing, open-store.io. So similar to the Snap Store being managed by Canonical. Open Store is an app store managed by the ubports team. different list of applications. Probably also the packaging technologies are different. In the sense of the Snap Store uses snaps, and then Open Store uses the native packaging technology for this operating system, Ubuntu Touch. So not the deb packages, but the Ubuntu Touch specific style packages. Let's install some software. Let's see what's more popular. How do we see that? Open source store for Ubuntu Touch. QML Mahjong. Yeah, none of these applications ring any bells to me. They don't seem familiar. Pure Maps. Waydroid is available. Waydroid helper. Maybe some of these are front ends to web app, to just websites in general. Let's see a game Tux Racer. So Open Store shows by default this thing naimia.app by Naimia German company. Okay, why would you do that? Tux Racer. (2025-04), so a really recent release. Let's see if it knows our CPU architecture. How do we find out? So supported architectures, AMD 64 we should be good. Let's see how I can install it. Donate now. Not packaged by the Tux Racer project, probably. I clicked on open a number of times. How do we determine if the application works or not? I don't know how to launch applications installed from the App Store. Let's look a bit at the applications that come pre-installed. So this is the Events app. And let's go towards the web browser application, which is called Morph Browser. How do we open it? I don't know. It fails to launch from what I see. It starts for a millisecond and then it crashes. Maybe if I knew how to open applications from the command line, I could see the actual error. Let's find out. Don't forget to exit the grab. Let's see if Google Search AI Mode knows how to answer to our question. Ubuntu Touch, how to list the installed apps from the command line. So the packaging format is probably click, written as you would expect. Let's see if that's the case. Click list. There's Tux Racer and where is the web browser? I don't see it in the list, so maybe it's part of the base operating system. Morph browser. So something's wrong with maybe OpenGL support, EGL support inside the virtual machine. Or maybe the error is something related to QML Qt packages. Qt core is not installed. That would be something. Okay. And how do we run applications? So I managed to launch an application that was installed using the Click technology, the most native technology of installing graphical user interface applications in Ubuntu Touch is by using the default App Store and installing applications from there. Those applications use the technology named Click, which is a technology that came before Snaps. And you can list the installed applications. That's click and list. It says that Tux Racer is installed. Next up, you can find the application ID of this application. For that, you need to list the .desktop files. So that's ls:/.local/share/applications. You need the full name of the file, excluding the extension. So that's, if the mouse works, this thing. Right click, copy. So tuxracer.abmyii minus underscore tuxracer_1.1.0. And that was also made for the Ubuntu 20.04 version of Ubuntu Touch. And then you can try to launch it using the command line lomiri -app -launch and then this string that we have copied to the clipboard. Right click, paste, Ctrl Shift V. And it says that it has started the game, but that's not the case. Lost our connection with the registry std runtime error. So this is a C++ exception error. Okay. The web browser did not start, so we don't actually have phone hardware, so we can't actually use the graphical user interface applications that require hardware, such as the camera. So there's personal information applications, there's an address book, SMS probably application, phone calling, dialing application. Probably the applications were written in Qt, maybe Qt version 5, and maybe they use QML for the graphical user interface. I'm not sure what's on the backend. Gallery, the image viewer probably application. Yes. There's of course a calculator. Calculator.ub ports. Okay, so some of the applications come pre-installed in this image that we have run, and they're of the click packaging format. So there's the calculator, calendar, camera, clock, file manager, gallery, music, notes, the Open Store, which is the App Store, terminal, and weather apps. So all of these are installed from Open Store, from the App Store, as click packages. Probably these applications work on previous versions of Ubuntu phone. So not just on what we have right now, which is not even released yet, but also on previous versions of 2404, previous versions of 2004, or maybe even before that. Okay, we can see other applications in the start menu that we didn't find in the output of click list. A barcode scanner, media player, yeah, so this is it. We'll stop here. What can I say? Maybe it's not that useful to have a predefined image that ISO image that or QEMU RAW or QEMU QCOW hard disk image that people can just load and see the operating system for themselves on a virtual machine. Yeah, maybe it would just add extra burden to the developers of this operating system, but then not having people that actually want to see a bit of the operating system working on their computer without special hardware and without entering the Ubuntu Touch developer experience, wikis, and figuring things out by themselves and wrestling with GitHub repositories. Yeah, I would suggest that they just provide a AMD64 image on their main website such that people can have a taste of how the operating system looks like. Yeah, with huge disclaimers that you're not running this operating system on a supported ARM64 mobile phone, you're just seeing for demo purposes our operating system in a QEMU virtual machine, AMD64. Maybe not all of the applications from the App Store have AMD64 versions. I know all sorts of caveats. The mouse will not exit the grab correctly. The mouse will not be able to act on the entire screen of the virtual machine. The graphical acceleration is not that great. But still, I would suggest that they just provide a simple to use virtual machine image or virtual machine disk image or an ISO file, something that people can actually evaluate. But other than that, everything seemed to work. It's of course not a desktop operating system, so it's not easy to actually use a terminal, copy paste things. I know. But then a wealth of deb packages are available which can be installed the way that we have installed Midnight Commander. Yeah. So this is it, my first look at the latest release of the Ubuntu Touch operating system created by the UBports community. Thank you.